everybody, and thank you so much for being here for Deborah Kobylt Live, and thank you, Enzo De Palma, for that incredible music. Joining me now in studio is Chris Browning. Chris, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Actor and like so much more, but some of your recent works, let's get talking about that. You are going to be starring in the upcoming 5th season of Bosch, which is on Amazon.
It is, and it's out.
And it's out.
It just came out about 3 weeks ago.
It's about 3 weeks. Yeah, it's new. How many how many shows are in the season?
10 on this one.
Right.
And I'm in 6 or 7 of them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what do you play?
I play a guy called Preston Borders. It's the book. There's a book. You know, all these are books from Michael Connelly, and there's like 26 of them. And there's one called Two Kinds of Truth, and that's what they based this season on. And it's a guy named Preston Borders, who was a rock and roll guy in the 90s, and you know, from like the hair band look, you know, and he was put away by Bosch for killing a girl, and now he's been in prison for. And I actually get to play that guy. Like,
oh, that's a cool guy to play.
Yeah.
How's his levels? Are we hearing him okay? Okay.
So I did do a scene where they showed the old interview footage from the 90s where I got to be the guy with the hair and the stuff and the leather
Oh, that's
pants.
really cool.
Yeah, it was fun. And
Don't you love playing dress up and make believe?
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
It's so much fun. I mean, beats a lot of the other day jobs out there, is
Right?
what I have to say.
Yeah.
And I get to interview people who do that. I mean, so what do I say about that?
Pretty cool
Okay.
gig.
Also, the 100, season 6 on the CW, you're in that?
I haven't been on that show in 5 years.
Yeah.
But I'm on it again. I was in a few episodes in season 1. I play the lead, Eliza Taylor's father. Mm-hmm. But I'm already dead, so I'm only ever seen in flashbacks. So there's a new one coming up here in this new season that's out now, I think.
But you've done some pretty incredible stuff. You've been in so much. You've Bright with Will Smith.
Yeah.
Westworld. But tell me about Bright with Will Smith.
Bright was the biggest thing that Netflix ever did. They made $100 million movie just for streaming, on Netflix. And
wow. What did you play in that?
I played a guy called Serling, who it's in an alternate universe in Los Angeles where elves and orcs live among us. And
hey, there's all kinds of folks living in Los Angeles, so sounds true to me.
Yeah, could happen. So it's just kind of this whole thing about class warfare and stuff, and so then there's this thing called the Shield of Light, and there's elves that are called Brights that can do magic, and magic of course is illegal, hugely illegal, and there's this group called the Shield of Light who are fighting to get the wands together to save the world from the Dark Lord and all this stuff. So I'm one of those guys, and
wow.
I'm seen as a homeless crazy guy, but
we're going to get to that homeless part in a little bit. So I mean, it's a little bit of foreshadowing.
A little foreshadowing. Yeah, I did the research for that one, but
oh, you did the research for that one, especially up on the 405 in Roscoe for anybody who's in LA. But you'll figure that out in a minute.
Yeah.
So Westworld, been in that?
Westworld, yeah, I did 2 or 3 of them in season 1. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
I can't imagine. I mean, these are big things, but as you said to me earlier, Book of Eli is the one where you got to hang out with the big boys and girls.
Well, I'd been at that point. I'd already had a career, and I'd been a regular on a couple of sitcoms in the '90s, and I'd had big parts in little movies and little parts in big movies. But I had this scene in Book of Eli where I kind of got to improvise with Denzel for a couple of days, and I'm in just one scene, but it came out great. And
I could see you working with him. I can. He's such a brilliant actor.
He's brilliant.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. And he kind of stayed in his thing, he wasn't chatting me up between takes because he had a whole mindset he was staying in, and he would go back to position 1, and then I would be hiding up behind this sign thinking of stuff to try on the next take. Mm-hmm. And I was, because they gave me the green light to improvise when I just said, we did a rehearsal, and I'm like, I feel like I should be saying something on my way there because I have to cover all this ground before I get to Denzel. and my first line is, what you got there in that pack? And I can't even tell he's got a pack till I get there, blah, blah, blah. So they said, you feel like saying something, man, just say it. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So every
Wow.
take, I'm doing something different. Sometimes I'm dancing around and singing a song, and then I'm being a crazy man and all this stuff. And it was the Hughes brothers, and Albert Hughes is more the cinematographer of the two. He's trying to cut the movie together in his head, and Alan Hughes he's working with the actors more. And so Albert is coming out between takes going, how are we going to cut this together, man? He's all over the map. And Alan Hughes is saying, just let him go, man. We'll figure it out. Just let him do it. And we'll cull it together somehow. And it worked out great. It really was cool. So when I left that job, I was like, okay, this is life changing. I can hang with the big boys and
they like hanging with me.
Yeah,
right?
Right. Yeah, they actually did. I mean, one of the guys told me that. Then he goes, "Did you hear that?" And I said, "No, what?" And he goes, "Denzel was walking back to one, and he looked over at the director, and he pointed over his shoulder to me and said, that guy's good." Now he didn't tell me that, but word on the street was that's what Denzel.
That's a proud moment.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been working a long time for a moment like that. You know.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, Cowboys and Aliens.
Yeah.
With Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
What'd you play in that?
I was one of Harrison Ford's ranch hands, and he was, so that was kind of the gig for 2 months, was showing up for work, and here's your gun, here's your horse, there's Harrison Ford, go ride, and we were just, it was like a $200 million movie, so it was
a huge blockbuster movie. I mean,
Yeah.
they put a lot of money into it.
They put a lot. It was Spielberg and Ron Howard's companies together, so it was.
And Harrison, what a trio! I mean, oh my God.
He was great. He was great, and Jon Favreau was really a cool guy to work with, and because he's an actor's director, but he also happened to be on this hugely technical, massive thing, and just the scope of it. Like they had the ability to light the entire town, so we didn't ever really have to stop to change lighting, which you usually do when you turn around.
Right. So they had switches for everything.
Yeah, they just lit the whole town. They had these massive cranes that were all around this western town outside of Santa Fe called Bonanza Creek, which I've done a few things.
I love
there.
the name of that place, Bonanza Creek.
Yeah, yeah, and they just had all these cranes with massive lights circling the entire town, and it was just kind of always lit. And they had these cables that were like a quarter-mile long, running about 20, 30 feet off the ground from one end of town to the other, and in both directions, because it was like a big crossroads. And they had these motorized vehicles on the cables that would buzz down through town, shooting lasers at different things that would explode when the laser hit them, like an old wagon, and boom, and they were just they were gonna paint the spaceships onto those things later, but they were actual.
Oh, wow. I didn't even realize that. It's such an incredibly creative medium, filmmaking, television. There's so much that goes into it. And I love being on sets because I love everyone from the actor to the person who's in charge of the lighting, the technical guy, because they're each their own creative genius in some way,
Yeah.
Different personalities, which I like,
Yeah.
It's not your standard office job,
No.
At all.
And it's kind of they have this whole thing called above the line and below the line. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, of course.
So it's like if you're below the line, that's kind of speaking of class warfare. It's kind of like if you're below the line, you're not supposed to be talking to the above the line people or whatever.
Especially back in the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So like there was we talked about Christian Bale, and I worked with him on 3:10 to Yuma, and Christian is the most generous guy that I've worked with as far as like names
Really?
go. he was totally unassuming. People be like, hey, Christian, can I get you a water? And
Well, you're talking about now Terminator Salvation.
No, this is 3:10 to Yuma.
3:10 to Yuma.
3:10 to Yuma.
Okay.
This was like 2 years earlier, Jim Mangold movie with Russell Crowe and Christian Bale. So like,
Love Russell Crowe.
yeah. But Russell was like, he wasn't the chatty guy. He would, if we were going to be down for 15 minutes changing something, he'd be back in the Escalade, take me back to my trailer. And Christian would just say, no, I'm good. And we'd hang out in the sagebrush. Yeah. And I found out early on he was going to be really generous with anything I asked him about. So I had like 5 weeks to play What Would You Like to Ask Christian Bale, So
What'd you ask him?
I asked him everything about stuff. Like I watched this scene. There's a scene where we arrested Russell Crowe in the saloon, and I'm one of the deputies. So I get sent out of the scene to go get the jail wagon, right, and go pull it around front. So I exit the scene, and there's still a couple more pages of dialogue between all the rest of the people. So I got to kind of hang out in the corner and watch the scene, and So there's a scene where the guy from the railroad is Alan Tudyk is asking for who volunteers to help get Russell Crowe to the train, to the 3:10 train to Yuma, so he can get in front of a judge. And Christian's got one line. His line is, "I'll do it." Right? So from across the room, I'm watching. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch Christian Bale, and I see this guy go, "I'll do it." And I'm like, really? That's it? That's all you got? You're Christian Bale? And so then I went to the monitor, and I watched it on the monitor, and it blew me away. It was, you could see all this stuff where he's thinking, $200 is a lot of money, and it'll save our ranch.
So in that one line, said so much.
So much. It was like, that's a lot of money. Yeah, I'm probably going to die, but it'll save my wife and son. And, I'm nervous, but I don't want the guys to know I'm nervous, so I'm going to try to be brave. And then he said, I'll do it. And it was like, oh. So,
wow.
Yeah, so we're out in the sagebrush again, the next week or next time I saw him. And I said, tell me about that. Because I was watching and I told him the whole thing where from a distance I was like, what is, that's it? And then I saw it and he goes, I learned a lot from Michael Caine. Because he worked on The Prestige and he worked on Batman. They worked together on that.
Right, that's right.
And so he said, when I was doing Batman, I was trying to put all this mustard on every line because I'm Batman, Right. And Michael Caine, who's a fellow Brit, kind of took him under his wing and he said, just do nothing, mate. And pick a
Okay, why did I not know he was British? Michael Caine. No, Michael.
Michael Caine, yeah. Michael Caine.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know it?
No, I swear to God, I did not know it.
Have you ever heard him speak with? Oh yeah, I guess he does do a lot of them.
Yeah, he does a lot of his lines as like an American.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they do wonderful American accents.
They do.
They grow up on American TV.
They absolutely do. American music. I'm just like the whole thing.
Yeah.
The guys from Britain, even when they're singing like "Help," right?
Yeah,
it's like
you don't hear it.
You didn't know that the Beatles were from London, England, unless you know.
Exactly. But he said that was Michael Caine's thing, is just do nothing, mate. And
wow.
And it was like, because he goes, that's why poker players wear sunglasses. If you're thinking about it, it'll show up. So you don't have to go, that's a lot of money, probably gonna die. You don't have to do that shit. You just have to think about it and it'll show up. And that's what but then I said, well, my big scene coming up is burning alive in a stagecoach. I can't really just do
How do
nothing.
you do that?
I just screamed and yelled.
No, but really, how do you do that? Like, what are the effects? Is there fire right near you?
Yeah.
Do they put it in later? That would scare the shit out of me.
Well,
I would be afraid that somehow a spark would go in my hair and that would be the enemy. You know what I mean?
If you have a lot of stuff in your hair, maybe.
Yeah.
But, no, they have a thing called a flame bar that's just it's a pipe with a bunch of holes in it that they run propane to, and they put it in front of the camera and stuff. So it looks a lot more dangerous than it is, but I made Jim Mangold run over there and say, "Are you okay?" Because he thought I was really burning. And so I was
really?
like, that's cool, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
But he was the guy that again, he's an actor's director. He did Girl Interrupted and Copland, and he's an amazing director.
I got to take you back a little bit, because how did you start in this business? Did you always want to be an actor? I'm pretty sure that you told me that you wanted on the other side of the camera, and then they took one look at you and said, I don't think so.
No.
Go over there. Is that what happened?
No, no one took a look at me. No, it was...
But you look like it. You have a presence about you. You just walk in and go, oh.
Well, I was shy. You know, in high school I was shy. I told you I've been a new guy, and like every time
always moving.
Always moving.
Your family,
what,
you moved to where?
schools.
Hawaii? I don't know how you
Yeah, I was born
that.
in Tahoe, lived in Reno, lived in Stockton, back to Reno, lived in Fort Wayne, Indiana for a minute, and back to Reno. Then parents divorced. I moved to Hawaii. Then I moved to Seattle. But I was in Hawaii for 4 years and went to 4 schools in Hawaii.
Yeah, I don't know how a kid does that. I really,
Yeah.
parents fret if they have to change a high school, let alone a kid who had 12 or 11 different schools.
Yeah.
Now, something happened to you when you were 11. You tasted your first what?
Beer.
And you liked it.
Yeah, no, I had tasted alcohol before because my dad was a big drinker, but my mom was a full-blown alcoholic. And so I remember when I was a little kid, 6, 7 years old, and my kid sister's a year and a half younger, and we were, getting up in the morning and going around and finding all these watered-down remnants of cocktails.
Oh, wow, and you drank it up?
Drinking those and getting something out of that.
And mom and dad had no idea.
They're still passed out in bed.
But you liked it, because I can't stand the taste of alcohol. So if I lived in your house and I were to down it, I'd be like, whoa. But you liked it.
I liked it. I liked the way it made me feel. I was comfortable in my own skin. I had like 3 beers and barfed all over the post office parking lot. But
you liked it.
But I was down for more of that, yeah. So I was always the guy who got drunk, way drunker than everybody else, and everyone had to tell me what stupid shit I did last night. And this is in high school.
Stumbling out of somebody's house or somebody's
or
car.
Just having I'm just kind of waking up and just remembering little flashes of like
stupidity.
120 on your speedometer and shit like that, and going, oh fuck,
You've got 5 angels on your shoulders, I'm telling you. But it evolved into something so much worse, because you were homeless. And you were homeless, living on the side of the road, which to this moment is flipping me out, because as you know, in LA and everywhere, homelessness is so much worse. I've interviewed people who were homeless. Basically, it's usually because they are on heavy drugs.
Yeah.
You were doing heroin. You showed me your legs, places where you injected yourself in your arms. How the hell did you live that way, and how did you come back? It's impossible to me to even imagine you came back.
Yeah, well, it was, I like when I did that thing in Russia I was telling you about, the miniseries.
What was the name of it again, for people who might not know?
It was called The Children of Captain Grant, and it's shown in Europe. It was made by a German producer, but the leads were 7 Americans. Mm-hmm. So Cassie Branham was the lead girl, and she and I, of course, she became my girlfriend, and we spent a few years together. Basically, her, stuck with a hopeless alcoholic, but Donovan Scott directed this thing, and he's still a friend of mine today, and we went over there where drinking was permissible. I mean, the crew drank. You could just drink as long as you did your job, and it was all.
Why not? Look at all the money they were making on their vodka. I mean,
Yeah. So I drank.
Put it in the breakfast cereal.
I drank it every morning. I'd drink a half liter every morning just to get to go to work on. I drank a liter at least every day for 13 months. And
oh my God.
Because it was all action stuff. I'm on a horse or doing, underwater shit or whatever. It wasn't like trying to have a normal conversation.
Right. You didn't really have lines. Good thing you didn't drown or fall off the horse.
Most
but
of
okay.
the lines were, screamed or, or said while falling or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it wasn't any kind of a Harold Pinter play that we were doing over there.
Yeah, you referenced that the other day. I'm a big Harold Pinter fan. I studied literature, and he's fantastic. I could tell you must be a fan of Pinter's too.
Well, we just had this thing at the American Academy where we talked about the Pinter pause. The guy uses the word pause in his plays more than anybody ever. Like there's a pause before.
Look that up, people. The Pinter pause.
Pinter pause. He thinks there's a lot of power in
the
between
pause.
The words.
Power in the pause.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you drank a lot in Russia when you were out working there. You came back here.
came back here and didn't even know that I was supposed to be, having DTs when I stopped drinking, but because I went and saw my mom in Florida who was sober and just hung out with her for a couple of weeks and was jogging in the morning and shit like that. I should have been like having seizures and shit.
But you didn't.
But I didn't because I didn't know about that. So I guess, I don't know. I mean, I come from a long line of Norwegian, Swedish alcoholics. So
Yeah, but you did way more than that. I mean, you ended up getting yourself into heroin.
Well, that's okay. So I came
because
back.
when I see people on the side of the road, I know each and every one of them, and they are just laying there, and people are like, clean them up, and you can't really just always have them there. But I look at them and I see a story behind them, and I think, you were not always this way. Who are you? And it's so complicated, as you know. Do you force them into treatment? Do you not? Do you let them lay there? In fact, is that even humane to do that? What's your answer to that?
Well, you can't make someone get sober or clean. It's just. But then again, I've known a lot of people that were forced into something against their will, but then at some point they decided they were into it and they stuck around. That or people that started, getting into recovery because of a nudge from the judge who sent them to, AA meetings or something. They were forced into it, or their wife made them, or whatever, and then eventually they started wanting it for themselves. Now that's possible. So,
I just think there has to be another reason. I don't have that reason. Another answer, as opposed to just allowing people to continue to kill themselves, so to speak. Do I have the right to tell them what to do? No. But it's such a deep-seated issue. So, like, for example, you said you were homeless and literally were living on the side of the road, again, for people who are in Los Angeles, by the 405 and Roscoe Boulevard, just living there and stealing vodka and selling it to people to make money and shooting up. You've got pockmarks all over your legs and arms that you were showing me. What happened in your head after 20-plus treatments had failed where you finally said no more? I mean, you had this great career. Then you're laying on the street, and then you finally said no more.
Well, that was, I think, because I was just talking to someone about that, because I had when I came back from Russia, I had it was a 12-hour miniseries, so I had the experience of having starred in 8 movies.
Right.
So then all of a sudden, because before that I wasn't getting anything. I was just getting little tiny, 2 words on, hi Heather on Saved by the Bell, and I was thrilled to have that.
That's right. We're all thrilled to have it, but you are a deep actor. I could see that you go deep. So, yeah. Yeah.
Well, so I came back, got immediately onto a sitcom for a year. Then I went to another one.
Which ones?
The first one was called Hardball. It was about a baseball team. It was on right after The Simpsons.
Which you love baseball.
I love baseball.
I have a kid who's a very, very good baseball player. I'll tell you about him later.
I still play now.
You do? Where do you play?
I play with the Men's Adult Baseball League here in Los Angeles, and
that's cool.
I play in the 30 and over league with most of the guys in my league are 20 years younger than I am, but I still get one out once in a while.
I'll bet. So you were in that, and what else were you in?
What, before? Oh, after. Yeah, so I went from that sitcom, got canceled. It was on right after The Simpsons, too. It was a good show. And I was pitching off the mound at Angel Stadium every week. And, Rose Marie was in it. And
that must have been a high. If you were on Angel Stadium pitching, okay, I got to ask, did you have a double, or was it all you?
That was me, because I was a player, so I got to.
Did you ever want to play pro ball?
I would
was that
have
a
loved to.
dream?
I tried to hit a big league curveball when I was 19 or 18, and I got a tryout out of high school, and it didn't go well. I've never seen a fastball that fast, and it was curving a lot. So that was the end of that. I played football instead. But so I went from that to LL Cool J's show In the House. He and Debbie Allen had a series.
Yeah, I remember that too.
And so I went from being the dumb guy on Hardball, the Woody character kind of guy, country boy, to the same thing on In the House, and I was on that for a year. So I had the money from Russia, and I had the Malibu beach house, and I thought, oh, I'm a star now, and this is what stars do. They go out and, you know, they throw parties, they buy drugs, and so I started.
Went to your head a little bit.
Went to my head a little bit, and I had all this free time, you know, because you only work half the year, and so, you know, and then I tried heroin once for 6 years, and that's what kind of was my undoing. So.
But you really had to spin out. If you're in Malibu, you're working, you're trying heroin, and now you're on the side of the road stealing vodka just to make some money so you could buy your next hit of heroin. I mean,
yeah.
How did you end up at the rehab place or wherever you were that finally got your head out of that way of thinking? Because I know that you were in and out of rehab, you said maybe 20 plus times.
Well, I went to detox 20 times, but that was never going to work because, you know, after a week in a detox, you still feel like shit. You know, you have coming off.
It's all wrong. That's the problem. The way it's done is all wrong.
Yeah.
I've never been an addict, but I've read enough, and I know enough people who work in the system where there's just a disconnect, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, so
I think it's the time. I'd been to treatment centers. You know, I went to when Screen Actors Guild sent me to treatment a couple times, and you know, I went to like Betty Ford, and you know, I was only there for 28 days. You know, so I came back with a nice tan and some weight. You know, and thought I had it fixed. You know,
but no, once you're out on your own.
No, I needed to be in somewhere for. I couldn't stay sober for 90 days. I couldn't do it. I tried. And I finally went to a county place down in Long Beach when I was, you know, this is back when I was living in the bushes. And mind you, half that time I spent in jail. And
right. They'd round you up, throw you in jail, and then you'd get out.
Or you'd get busted, you know, stealing or possession or, you know, whatever it was. I mean, I always had a litany of charges when I got caught, but that's why I just bought disposable cars, because I'd buy a $500 car, I wouldn't register it or insure it because I didn't have a license anyway. And
did you at least live in the car?
No, they were always much too small to live in, but they were good on gas. That's all I needed.
So you finally sort of turned your shit around, in other words. You went to a county facility in Long Beach.
Yeah.
You managed to pull it together. But the journey seemed impossible when I even think about what you've been through and how you lived. And tell me about one of your darkest days, and then we're going to go back to your acting work.
But darkest days when I was on the streets?
Did you ever get bitten by, you must have been bitten by stuff.
Oh, God.
Beaten, right? Didn't you tell me that there was some like metal slammed into you from a car? I mean.
Yeah, I got impaled by a car and batteries, acid dripped all over my legs, and it smelled like barbecue, which was kind of weird. And I didn't feel any of it because I was so loaded.
I just got to say, when people see homeless people stumbling around and you just say, get rid of them, I get it. But that was this guy. So there's got to be another answer. Again, I don't have it, but I feel for what you have been through. I do.
There's a lot of people out there that are on the streets that are scamming the system because they're getting assistance of some kind. You know, so the first of the month was always this was like a strip of wilderness between the 405, which was on a high hill, and the back of a long strip mall. So there was like a couple hundred yards of woods back there.
Right, and they'd come down during the day or night or whatever and take their stuff.
Well, we'd walk in from Roscoe, and you could go back there and just be left alone. But and people had little tarps set up or whatever, and you'd grab some old mattress off the side of the road and bring it down there, and and then. But anyway, the why was I bringing that up? Oh, so yeah, the first of the month was always a huge party, because people would get their checks and they'd go out and buy drugs, and and we'd just party away all this welfare money. I was never on it, but they were, so it was like everyone was real generous with it for a couple of days, and then they go back to their hustle, whatever it is. Girls were making money their way, and guys were making money their way, and it was just kind of a.
What I found interesting, and I don't want to keep talking about this, but you had residual checks that had been piling up, and Tippi Hedren's ex-husband, former husband, Noel Marshall, who you had been friendly with, was hanging on to your residual checks to the tune of $20,000. So when you finally sobered up, it was Noel who had that money all sitting in reserve for you. So
Noel Marshall,
Yep.
produced
you.
The
No,
Exorcist.
that's right.
And he had 3 sons of his own that before Tippy that had I'd never met them, but I heard that they had their own different, some of them or one of them, I don't know. There were some problems with addiction somewhere in the family.
So
and
he understood.
He raised Melanie Griffith, who's got her own story, and he just had a soft spot for me, and he was like a father to me. He was kind of managing my career or just really managing me.
Managing you. He saw the talent in you because, it's funny. I feel it coming from you. There's a big talent in there, and he saw it and he knew you were messing up, but he was going to get you through. So, how many films have you been in total on TV? I mean, if you were to count it up, you did incredible, your career, even if it's a one-liner.
Probably, I don't know, 150, 200 things. I mean, if you're talking about episodes and movies, I don't know. I never.
Also, in August, coming out, Angel Has Fallen with Gerard Butler.
Gerard Butler and Morgan Freeman.
I can't wait to see that.
It's the third installment.
Yes, it is.
There was Olympus Has Fallen, London Has Fallen, and this is the new one but Rick Roman Waugh directed this one, so it's going to be. I've known him for a long time. We were in a movie called Felon. He wrote and directed a movie called Felon with Val Kilmer and Stephen Dorff. I was Danny Sampson, the head of the Aryan Brotherhood in that movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that was
I didn't know that.
That's a good little story. How much time do we have?
How much time do we have, Kurt?
I mean, it's your show. However long you want to go.
Oh.
Well, we can go for a little bit longer. Sure.
Because I want to tell that story.
Go ahead.
Good.
This is your show.
This
Go
is
ahead.
my show. I'll tell you when we're done. No, I'm just kidding. So, Rick Waugh had this little movie, and I was in New Mexico. They were filming in New Mexico, and I was reading for this a local hire that they, a role, and it was the public defender. The guy comes in. He said he's in like 3 scenes. He says a bunch of public defender shit, and there's really not much you can do with it. It was exposition, to show us what our hero is facing. So afterwards, I got in touch with Angelique Midthunder, the locals casting, and I asked her if they cast this Danny Sampson guy, or are they going to bring him from L.A. because he was a much bigger role, but not so big that they're going to put a name to it. I don't know. So can you check? She got back to me and said they haven't cast. Rick, the director, will let you read tomorrow, but he told me not to tell you. He told me to tell you not to get your hopes up because he sees you on the other side of the bars, right?
Okay, so what happened?
Well, he didn't know that I've spent 3 years of my life on that side of the bars. I know those guys. I used to live with those guys, and so I went and got Katie Dewitt, this makeup artist friend of mine in New Mexico. She got me all like put the big mustache on me and slicked back and pale and put on a wife beater and got all pumped up. And I was waiting in the hall the next day and I said, "Hey Rick, how you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, hey man." He didn't know.
He didn't recognize you.
He didn't know.
Wow.
So I went in and did my Danny Sampson scenes, and he said, "I was wrong, man. You're Danny Sampson," and he hired me right there.
Isn't it incredible how people will see you one way? And isn't it amazing sometimes when you meet someone and you think, if you only knew my story? We all have a story, but
Yeah.
but you've really gone down deep. I mean, a lot of us will touch the surface of going down deep, but you've been down there.
Yeah.
You know? And do you think in a way it makes you a better actor
Of
because
course.
you've lived through hell and come back from
Of
it?
course.
Yeah.
I mean, I just told you a story about a gig
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gotten if
Yeah.
I didn't spend all that time in jail.
But just in general, even if you're on the other side of the bar, you know, the good guy over there, the clean-looking good guy. I mean,
Yeah.
just everything just sort of builds up to just the depth of knowledge you have
Sure.
as an
yeah.
actor.
I think so. I mean, if it's one of those things where, people talk about how ridiculous it is for somebody to like put themselves through hell so that they can be the tortured artist, that's why a lot of people in the arts kind of are self-destructive because they need that pain to find their shit. I think that's bullshit, but you can, whatever you have in life to draw from is certainly going to serve you. I've lost a lot of dear people and I use them. They help me in my work. My own sister, my baby. I've lost.
You've lost a baby.
My mom and dad. Yeah,
You've lost a baby, which is, and as you said, your sister, your parents, but
Yeah.
to lose a baby, I mean, you have been through so much. And now here you are to come back and tell us about, Bosch. Tell me a little bit about Bosch.
Bosch. Oh yeah. So Preston.
Remember Bosch, which is why you came in here in the first place.
Yeah.
We'll circle back. Let's go to Bosch.
We're circling back to Preston Borders character that I play. So Bosch put him away 23 years ago, and now he's got. So I got to do that old footage from the 90s. I got to play that. But now the rest of the time you're going to see me. I'm a convict. I've been in prison for 23 years. Again. A role that I probably got because of my past, But the thing is now there's some new evidence has come to light. Preston Borders and he now has a lawyer. There's some new DNA has turned up. Someone else has confessed to my crime, and we're trying to get a new trial and sue the city, get released, make millions, and that's the plan. And people are starting to wonder, like, what did Harry Bosch do? Like, did he frame this dude? Was he sure that he was the guy and then just kind of planted evidence or what? So
can you tell us? You can't. Of course you can't.
Spoiler alert.
I love spoiler alerts. I never reveal them, and you certainly can't do it on here. But I'm the one who will go to the end of the book first just to find out what happened.
Really?
And then I can relax, and then I can just read it from the beginning. Yes, please.
I kind of see that.
Yes,
I see that.
And then I can relax about it. It's like, okay, I know the guy's going to be dead. It's okay. I don't have to get anxiety along the way as I'm reading it. It's all good.
I do that when I get on the MLBnetwork.com to watch my Dodger games, and I will look to see if they won the game.
And then you'll watch the whole game.
Then I'll watch the game, because if I'm going to watch them for 3 hours and find out they lost, I'm not.
I live in a baseball family, and a lot of times I'll just have to record something. I'm like, do you want to know who won? They're like, no. And I'm thinking, why not? Cut to the chase, and then you can watch the game.
Yeah.
Then you can watch all the plays.
Yeah, see, that makes sense.
I do that at museums. When they say enter here, I'm like, no. I go to the end, where the bookshop is, and I go the back way, and it's much more fulfilling for me. It tells you a little bit about my personality now, doesn't it? Yeah. I just need to know, and then I'm okay.
Then you're okay.
Then I'm okay. So Bosch, the 100, season 6 on CW.
On CW, yeah. I'm in. I don't know which episode I'm in, but I do make an appearance.
And in August, Angel Has Fallen. That's going to be so massively huge.
We're building that up a lot, like it's this movie, that my latest movie. I'm barely
Doesn't matter if you're just a clerk, putting the vegetables in the bag. I mean, it's a big movie and it's small, but.
My role is small. The movie's huge. We got to, but that's Rick Waugh, the Felon director. He did a movie a couple of years ago called Shot Caller, which was another prison movie. Only this one had Nikolai Coster-Waldau from Game of Thrones, who plays Jaime, Lake Bell, Benjamin Bratt. It was a bigger movie, and he wrote the part in there for me that was like the main. Villain in the movie, and I couldn't get it because not enough people knew who I was. He couldn't get me in his own movie, so he wrote another role in the movie for me just to keep me in the movie. That's who Rick Waugh is. Rick, love you, man. So then this movie, this Angel Has Fallen thing, Rick did, and got me a gig on that movie that they normally would have it was in Bulgaria. They would have flown someone down from London or whatever to be in one scene. But he got me to Bulgaria.
I would have flown myself to do that. Are you kidding me?
And I got to go riding around Sofia, Bulgaria with Gerard Butler on my last day there because he's like, when are you leaving? And I said, not for a couple of days. He said, let's get together tomorrow. And Jerry and I went riding around Sofia on bicycles for 6 hours.
But you're such like a guy. I mean, you look like the Marlboro Man, so you probably have such a great time with these guys on the set.
It was great. I mean, but that's
you do.
Thing.
That's what you remind me of, the Marlboro Man. Remember
him? You don't think of
him?
Gerard Butler as being that guy that's going to want, that's what I want is another big strapping guy to hang around with to draw focus from me, but he's actually doesn't give a shit. He's just a really nice guy. He must have got stopped 20 times for pictures. And he's like, sure, no problem. And just
which is very nice because his fan base really is important.
He's just a genuinely nice guy, though. He's not just pretending. He's just really cool. we stay in touch a lot.
Before I let you go, and I have to let you go.
Oh, come on.
We could talk in the lobby. But what's the big? Do you have like a dream? Like, oh my God, I have to be in this, or have to act with that person. Unless you want to act opposite me with something, that could be something.
I got a project for you.
I would love that. What's the big something, or no? Do you just take stuff as it comes?
Yeah, no, things that I've written. I started writing in jail, and that's the thing. I wanted to originally come down here to write screenplays. Remember that story? And
then you ended up on the other side.
Yeah,
but you still were writing, as
still
you said,
writing.
in jail.
And I don't even get considered for the leads in shows because they get packaged. So it's because I'm more of a lead guy. I'm not going to get on this package because it's a Kiefer Sutherland project, or it's already got that guy in it, so I don't even audition for it. So I said, well, I'm going to have to start writing something for myself, write my own content, and so I've got a couple of pilots. I've got one called In the Life, that's about an ex-con, former junkie, who's now a success, runs a treatment center, and he's a podcaster and an addiction expert on
Don't you
Dr.
need another
Oz.
podcaster out there? You've got to have a
Should be a team.
little part for me. I say this to people sometimes, and they're like, "Oh yeah," and I never hear from them again.
No, maybe that's the thing. Maybe it needs to be two people.
I've been in a movie. I need you to know that. I was in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I got credits.
Nice. Okay.
I can do it. I can do it. You'd be surprised. I'm quite talented. So if you need a podcaster or whatever,
okay,
you've got her.
All right.
All right.
So I want to do that. I want to do, but then you find out that the show's not at all. If you think it's a lovely family drama with this guy living his new successful life, and in the last few minutes of the pilot, you're going to find out it's a whole different show. And
where would you? No, I swear I got to let you go, or he'll kill me.
Wait.
But
And then Antebellum, which is a pre-Civil War story that's perfect for now because the social and political climate in America was just like it is today.
I'm trying to figure out, where are we going with our social and political climate? Are we on the decline in our particular society?
Last time it was a civil war. I'm saying. So maybe. Oh, but the cool thing is the parties were reversed. So the Democrats were the rich,
that's how it was. I mean, people don't realize that.
And the human rights activists were the Republicans.
I mean, look at Lincoln. Lincoln was a Republican.
Right. So when
people don't realize that
Republicans say we're the party of Lincoln, it's like, shut the hell up.
Yeah. No, you were.
You.
I don't know who the Republicans are anymore, but I have to tell you, I don't know who the Democrats are anymore either. Nobody really speaks for me.
Yeah.
I wish we could just get a clean slate and start over, because I think there's good on. It's another conversation.
Yeah,
on both sides, but both sides don't serve me either.
No, they're too busy bickering because of the guy at the top, I think.
So everybody, please look for Chris in Bosch. And what's your social media handle? Because I want to tell people if they want to reach you. Would you please?
Hijack Leader.
Hijack Leader. I'm sitting there looking for you, and I'm like,
one word.
How could this man not be on social media?
Because
and then boom.
of the Book of Eli movie.
That's right, because of the Book of Eli.
My big moment of clarity.
Yeah, so if people want to reach out, what? Oh, please.
Clarity. I did a short film.
Of course, there's a film, Clarity.
I did a short film for a guy named Roy Arwas, who's like a grad student at USC, but I just love to work. And I got to be like a 68-year-old Alzheimer's patient, and it was awesome. And I had my friend Brett Zimmerman brought me in on it, and we just did a movie together. He played my brother on Call of Duty, World War II video game, and anyway, it's going to be awesome. Just short film, just giving a little shout out to my buddy Roy. I told you I'd do it.
I'm glad you remembered, because we almost went off. Anything else? I'll give you another minute, because Kurt has been very patient letting us go overtime. Go ahead. Anything else we could just throw in there in the last couple of minutes?
The Unhealer. It's a what's that called? It's not a psychological thriller, but
who's in it? You.
Adam Beach, Natasha Henstridge. And it's about this boy who gets bullied all the time, and then he gets this Native American mojo power, and he's able to to address these problems.
So much great stuff out there. I love the fact that content is finally about real people and real struggles as opposed to just, smiling faces. You know what I mean? For so long, Hollywood, whether it was film or television, I would look at it and go, I do not relate to any of you, like none of you. You don't have my story. So I'm so glad that there's such great content out there. I mean, look, you've lived a life. We've all lived a life that...
Well, The Unhealer isn't out yet, but and Lance Henriksen's in it as well.
Oh,
yeah, he's amazing.
When does that come out?
I don't know yet. They're still
still
doing a re-edit on it, so it's still a ways out. But
would you come back? I'll give you more time.
I would love to.
That'd be fun.
I would love to come
That'd be
back.
fun.
Oh, and I'm starting a movie called Why next week.
Who's in it?
It's a
And
horror
who's doing
film. I don't really know yet who's in it. I know I'm in it, and it's
Scary.
directed by Corbin Timbrook, and my buddy Galen Walker is one of the producers on it. So it's
Where are you shooting?
the same gang that did the Unhealer movie with Natasha and Adam Beach.
Where are you shooting? Here?
Shooting here in Idlewild mostly.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
I just love that.
It'd be like getting
life
paid
of
to
it.
go camping.
Yeah, that'll be fun. It might be hot up there, but who gives a shit? That'll be a lot of fun. Anyway, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Please, everybody, look for Chris. And by the way, if you want to watch our show, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook. We Twitter about it. And if you just want to listen to it, we're on Apple Podcasts. We're on the iHeartRadio app. We're on Spreaker. And honestly, just about anywhere else where you get your podcast, you'll find us, Deborah Kobylt Live. Thanks for tuning in. Chris Browning, and we'll see you next time.